Characteristics of life. This is a little review. Let's see. All living organisms have 6 common characteristics. Sometimes you'll research and they'll tell you that there are more, but these are the basic 6 common characteristics, and some of them overlap, so that's why I'm only using 6. These are 6 properties that indicate that there is unity to life. Now, I gave you an essay. You're supposed to write, do you think that viruses are alive? If you think they're alive, then they should possess all of these living things. If you think they're not alive, then they don't possess all of these living things. If you think that they are alive, but we need to change some of these characteristics, then you write about that. So you have freedom. Okay, let's see what we have. Characteristics of life. Do you remember them? The first one is respond. All organisms need to be able to respond. That means regulation. They need to be able to regulate their bodies, to react to stimuli. Now, a stimuli is a change in their environment. So if I move this plant to the window and there was only one way that they can get light, they'd have to face toward the light. So they're regulating their bodies. So they're responding to the sun. The stimulus is the sun and the response is growing toward the light. There's a change in the environment. The pan is hot. Normally pans aren't hot unless you put them on the stove. So the stimulus would be the hot pan and you have to respond, remove your hand. If you didn't have the ability to remove your hand, you would get burnt. Now we have an internal mechanism in our body, humans do, because we're warm-blooded, that allows us to keep our blood warm. That term that we use to regulate our insides of our bodies is called homeostasis. That was in the last slideshow. Homeostasis means keep the insides regular when the outsides change. So what that basically means is if it's freezing cold outside, your body does not get freezing cold. It tries everything under the sun to warm itself up. So we shiver. We have to run around to produce heat inside our bodies. We have to produce body heat. Otherwise, we will die. So that's responding to changes in your environment. If you don't have enough water in your system, you have an internal mechanism that makes you thirsty. We also have an internal mechanism that allows us to understand if we need blood sugar in your blood. So your pancreas will release insulin to break down the food in your blood and to turn it into glucose. So we have to regulate all those things. Everything inside has to be regular, no matter what's going on the outside. That's homeostasis. So all of our bodies have the ability to respond to changes in the environment. And that term is the first characteristics of life. We all need to be able to respond. If organisms can't respond, they'll die. 2, energy. So organisms need energy. They need to get energy. So they have 2 choices. You either get energy from the sun or you get it from other organisms. If you're an organism that gets energy from the sun, we call you an autotroph. Auto means self. Troph means to feed. So autotrophs make their own food using the sun's energy. All of your plants are autotrophs. Some of your microscopic organisms called protists are autotrophs as well, and some of your monera, like your bacteria, are autotrophs also. Heterotrophs. Heterotrophs, hetero means other or different. Heterotrophs must gather food for energy. They eat food from other organisms. You like the phone ringing, huh? Okay, develop is the D. D stands for develop. So organisms must grow, change, and develop during their lifetime. Sometimes they look completely different, like the butterfly, or sometimes they don't look different. All right. Okay, no more interruptions. Organisms grow, change, and develop during their lifetime. So as a baby, you change what you look like, and you become an adolescent, then you become a teen, then you become an adult. You pretty much look the same, but you just get more wrinkles. But a flower looks a little bit different. It starts off as a seed. A seed is a baby flower. The baby's on the inside. Then it starts to grow out. So all the food is inside the seed, but once it hits the light, turns green, it changes chlorophyll, helps it make its own food. Butterflies have different stages. Some of your microscopic organisms, all they do is split in half and they look identical. All they do is grow. So you don't have to completely change what you look like. You just have to be able to grow a little bit so you can survive in your environment. Cells. All organisms must be made of cells. There are 2 different words we'll use. Unicellular means you're made of one cell. Those are microscopic, normally, organisms. That's bacteria. this picture right here, and it has a little bit of a tail to it, so the cells are a little different looking. And there's also multicellular. This is an onion, has many, many cells on the inside. It's not made of one cell, it's made of many cells, and those cells work together to make up different parts of the organism. So a unicellular organism only has one cell that has to do all the jobs, but a multicellular organism has lots of cells, and every cell performs a different job. Now, all of these cells are onion cells, skin cells, so they have the same job if they look alike. But the roots have different jobs, so they're made of different cells, root cells. So the root cells would look different than these cells, which come from the inside of the onion. Multicellular, many cells. Uni, one cell. Organisms have to be able to adapt to their environment. Now, you all confused this word before. Adapt doesn't mean you have the behavior. It could mean behavior, but behavior has to be brought on by something physical or chemical inside your body. You have physical features that allow you to survive in your environment. You have chemical features that allow you to survive. So if you adapt to the cold weather by sleeping, you hibernate. You have to have some kind of chemical mechanism that allows you to hibernate. So we have melatonin that helps us wake up in the morning and helps us regulate our sleep patterns. That's a chemical thing that helps you adapt to your environment. So adaptations are mostly features, characteristics, parts of you that allow you to adapt. Like a hummingbird has a really long beak. If it didn't have a really long beak, it wouldn't be able to get its food. So an adaptation of a hummingbird is a beak. It's also its wings. It's also the size of it. Very, very tiny. It allows it to fly forward and backwards. It has lots of different adaptations. This is also a bird. It has a different beak. So it lives in a different environment. You are what you look like what you need. It needs this spoon to feed. It has to scoop up the birds. It has different feet. It has different legs. It has different feathers. It has different needs. So therefore, it has to have adaptations that allow it to live in its environment. Same thing with this chameleon. It has different adaptations. It has a very long tongue. It has little nails on its hands. It has small feet in the back. It has a spike over here. These are all adaptations. It has eyes on the side of its head. So hummingbirds have long, thin beaks to gather nectar. That's one adaptation. They have many. Spoonbills, they have scooper beaks because they got to pick up the small fish. That's only one adaptation. And chameleons can camouflage. They change colors, so they have some kind of chemical mechanism inside that allow them to do that. All right, reproduction. All organisms need to be able to make more offspring. They need this so their species can survive. So there's all different ways. It could be sexual reproduction. Oh, let's go back, sorry. That means that you need more than one parent. Or asexual, which means you only need one parent. So this is the paramecium. If you see these little the nodules right here, that means it's squeezing its body into two. It doesn't need another parent. This is asexual reproduction because it's only one parent, so it actually cuts its body into two parts. This is another example of asexual reproduction, this hydra thing down here. This hydra, see that something's growing off of it? Well, it grows organisms off its body and then they pop off. That's another form of asexual reproduction. So let's review. Red car. R stands for respond. E stands for energy. Do you remember what D stands for? Develop. C, cells. A, adapt. R, reproduce. So all of these spell red car. So if you forget what any of them are, you remember red car, and hopefully they'll help you remember what they are. All organisms need to respond. So another way to write that is to regulate their bodies. So you regulate. You have to change something inside of you. You move your hand. You have to produce more insulin. Something has to happen in order to survive. Okay. The next section is about needs. So if we were in school, we would have done this lab. Is it living or non-living? How can you tell? But instead of that, I made a Google Doc and I gave you different organisms and videos, and then I asked you to tell me what characteristic of life is represented in the video. So we did a kind of like a lab virtual. All right. What does an organism